Okay, so let's move on to the first question that we typically receive from an applicant. Something along the lines of this. So I've just been invited to a job aptitude test and I'm freaking out. What are these tests like? What do they measure? Help me. So we're going to start off by talking in broad terms about the categories of these tests. So there are three primary types. There's those that measure your verbal comprehension or reasoning skills. There are those that measure your numerical comprehension or reasoning skills. And there's tests of abstract reasoning. I make the distinction between comprehension and reasoning. Usually comprehension type tests are at a lower level than the reasoning type tests. So a verbal comprehension test may be simply a case where you need to fill in a missing word in a passage or a sentence, whereas a reasoning test would require you to make logical judgments on the basis of the passage. Same with the numerical. A comprehension, you may be faced with some basic ratios, percentages, fractions, whereas a reasoning test, you'd be faced with charts, tables, data, perhaps needing to refer to more than one source to reach your conclusion. I would say that it's more common that people at graduate level and higher will receive a reasoning test rather than a comprehension test. So for that end, we're going to be spending more of time talking about the tougher reasoning ones, which I'm sure will fill you all with joy at the prospect. The abstract reasoning tests, they come in, again, a variety of forms. We're going to talk about one called the diagrammatic series type of abstract reasoning test. There are others, but I'll give you a little bit of an insight into that, and we'll talk more at the time. But those are where you're presented with an abstract series of shapes, and you need to use your conceptual reasoning skills to work out what comes next in the sequence. Okay, so let's begin with verbal reasoning tests. Okay, so what do they measure? Comprehension and reasoning. These will, again, come from publishers like SHL, Connexa, the Criterion Partnership, OPP, ERAS, and the exact formats, lengths, and presentation style will vary in these. We've aimed to duplicate the most common format both here and on our website. A lot of the time now you'll be expected to complete these online, although occasionally some firms still do use paper and pencil, and there are slightly different tips and tricks to do your best in both of those depending upon which format it's in. Okay, so the format, typically you'll get a passage of text presented to you, and then you'll get a task, so perhaps a word replacement task for a comprehension type test and a true, false or can't say decision in a reasoning type test. Quite often a company will let you know what type of verbal reasoning test they'll be giving you. They might be saying you'll be sitting a test of verbal comprehension or reasoning. If they don't, then it's perfectly within your rights to ask and say, can I just check, is this a reasoning test or a comprehension test? I'd say that if you get a link to an SHL site, then it's a pretty safe bet it's going to be a reasoning test. But that will help you in your preparation if you know what level to pitch it at. Okay. Timing for these tests, again, it really does vary. I'd say broadly speaking, you're looking at between 15 and 35 minutes, and you're looking at up to 1 minute per question. But again, individual test publishers will alternate in this. Sometimes they'll be looking to get a quick snapshot of your skills, other times it will be a far more in-depth process. So again, you just need to read the administration instructions and be aware of this up front. Right, let's take a look at an example. So let's start everyone off simply. Verbal comprehension. So remember, this is the lower level of verbal reasoning assessment. So the following lists one word on the left in bold, and then there are 4 words that are listed to the right of the first word. Your task is to select which of the 4 words are closest in meaning to the first word. So here are a list of the first words: true, hasty, regular, fluent, and adhere. And here are a list of alternate options, and you need to choose which one of them most closely adhere to the meaning in the first column. I'll give you a moment just to have a look through those. Remember, you can exchange ideas on the chat board. And each of these would count as a separate question. So you would get 1 point for each of these that you got correct, 0 points for every one that you got incorrect. When we're writing these items, we do deliberately try to be devious. So we will put in there, as you can see, some logical opposites of the first column. We will also put in words that are close in meaning, but there are ones that are even closer. So don't be fooled by us. We are trying deliberately to trip you up in the nicest possible way, of course. Okay, so I'm hoping everyone's had a chance to have a go at that. Let's reveal the correct answers. So for the first word, true, accurate is the closest in meaning to the word true. Again, you could possibly argue that something like forthright, if someone's being quite forthright with someone, they could be being truthful, but I'd say that accurate is actually the closer in meaning to the first word. Things like for question 2, hasty, hurried is the most analogous to the first word, slow is the logical opposite. Timely, again, kind of being on time, but I'd say that hurried actually is the closer match. Regular, normal, fluent, flowing, and adhere is stick. So as you can say, this is just really assessing your basic verbal comprehension skills.